and welcome for another edition of MHQ Foundation 101 webcast, where today I'm very lucky because I'm joined by my two buddies, Marcus and Christian. Marcus and Christian, hi guys.
Hi Jan, how are you doing?
Good to see you.
Super. And today we are going to do something we love to do. We love to talk cross-border. And what we are going to address today is UAE Foundation and, of course, German connection. You will have recognized Berlin behind Marcus. But before we dive into it, could you please introduce yourselves?
Absolutely. Thank you, Jan, for having us. It's a big pleasure to be on this podcast. So my name is Markus Niermann. My colleague Christian and myself, we are lawyers, and I'm a tax advisor as well in the German law firm of Pollard, which you can see here in our wallpaper. And we advise high net worth individuals, private clients, but also family businesses, family offices on tax structuring, on succession planning, with a special focus on cross-border matters. So that's why it's a pleasure to be here with you. Foundations, of course, are very familiar to us, and I look forward to discussing with you. Christian.
Yeah, thank you for having me as well, Jan. I'm Christian Hesse, also an attorney at law at law firm Pollard. And I'm mostly working together with Marcus on these cross-border kind of cases, in particular with connection to the UAE. And it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Top. So let's dive into it, boys. And what we have seen of late is two things. The success of Foundation in the UAE means that a lot more people that are using them are looking at consolidating foreign C2 assets. And that can include the UK, the US, Switzerland, but also Germany increasingly. And then the other thing is we see much more family offices out of Germany putting a second leg or even a first one into the UAE and then reverse somehow. So these are two scenarios where potentially Foundation or UAE holdings could be of interest. So many of our clients in that context ask us, UAE Foundation and German law, are they compatible? So what is the take of the specialists?
Thank you, Jan. This sounds very familiar to us, and we also see amongst our clients, more and more interest in UAE, actually, not only to have holdings there or have assets there, but also even to move there sometimes. Yep. So that's why these issues, these cross-border issues between our two countries get more and more important also in our practice. Getting back to foundations, it's very interesting to know that you, as UAE, have foundations, I think, for a few years now. I think they were introduced back in 2017 or something like that. As you know, Germany is a long-standing foundation jurisdiction. We are very familiar with that kind of entities. Also in the context of succession planning and as holding vehicle, but also for charitable purposes.
Yep.
Now, in contrast, trust structures, as you know, and as most listeners to this podcast will know, are more common in the Anglo-American world and Latin America. So if we talk about foreign foundations from a German perspective, in the past, Liechtenstein has frankly been the go-to jurisdiction, and it keeps being that way because we are very close to Liechtenstein, both from a language perspective, also like geographically and culturally. But also, as I said in the beginning, as the interest in UAE is rising, UAE foundations are, of course, also interesting for our clients. Getting back to your questions, is German law compatible with UAE foundations? Generally, yes, because from a private law perspective, we do acknowledge UAE foundations as legal entities with their own legal personality, being able to own assets, including German cited assets, as long as they are effectively managed from the UAE. So that's an important point because our conflict of law rules follow the real seat theory, so to speak. So we always apply the law of the country where the entity is actually effectively managed. So that has to be the UAE. That's at least true outside Europe. So that being said, in certain cases, we will talk a lot about tax law, of course.
Yes,
but just
yes.
a quick word on civil law. In certain situations, UAE foundations can be interesting from a asset protection perspective as well. As you may know, we have, for example, forced heirship rules in Germany, and maybe in some cases it can help to effectively block such claims to use such foundations. And now I hand over to Christian about the tax classification.
Yeah, thank you so much. Now we come to the tax side of the UAE foundations. As in many jurisdictions, the German tax treatment of a foreign foundation depends on whether it is considered tax transparent or tax opaque, as in most countries. And we have some key criteria as well. Let's have a look at the revocation rights. So can you get your assets back or not, right? Do you have participation rights? Do you have who's in charge, right? Are you in charge as a settler? Can you say, let's do this, let's do that? And last but not least, the entitlement of assets. So can you have a claim, or do you have a claim on the assets? Can you get a distribution? Can you get your assets back, right? So this would be deciding whether a foundation would be considered as tax transparent or tax opaque. But very important to say, depending on the structure and the facts of the case, either classification may be more favorable from a tax perspective. So it depends from case to case, right?
Yeah, we see the same thing in the UAE, where we have tax transparency or free zone tax exemption, and in some cases one is superior to the other. You talked about the settler, which, well, the same thing, but we talk about the founder, the one that creates the spark. Is there under German tax law a definition of that founder, since we understand that this has an impact on control, beneficiary, and the ability to rescind the foundation?
Interesting question. From a German tax law perspective, a German tax law does not provide a formal legal definition of the term founder in the context of foundations. Instead, the concept is interpreted more economically, meaning the person who initiates and or finances the foundation is typically regarded as the founder for tax purposes. So this economic view is especially relevant in cases involving foreign family foundations, where the founder's role may trigger tax consequences, even if the person is not formally named as the founder in the foundation documents.
So when we talk about UAE foundation and situs, we think about a foundation holding German situs asset, for example, real estate or shares in a German company. So what are the key considerations for German clients or non-German clients when you think consolidating under UAE foundations?
Absolutely. So obviously tax law plays a major role in that. So if a foreign foundation like a UAE foundation, now assuming that this is tax opaque, right? In the following, we'll just assume that we have a tax opaque foundation, which is in fact the normal qualification of foundations, because we know foundations in Germany and our foundations are almost always opaque. So that's rather often. So if we have a tax opaque UAE foundation that is invested, for example, in German real estate or shares in a German company, then this foundation is subject to what we call limited corporate income tax liability. So it has to pay corporate income tax in Germany on those German-sourced income getting out of those assets. So we talk about dividends, we talk about rental income, we talk about capital gains, right?
What about withholding tax?
There is also a withholding tax, very, very important point, Jan. So maybe first to complete this, the corporate income tax rate is 15%, right, generally. And when we talk about withholding tax, this is especially due when we talk about dividends. So for dividends, we have a withholding tax at the company level of round about 26%. So you will notice that this is more than the actual corporate income tax rate, because it applies to all foreign investors, not only corporations, but also individuals. As you know, there's no tax treaty. You mentioned that. Our tax treaty with the UAE expired in 2021. and very unfortunately, there has not been an update since then. So what we have is, as I said, a withholding tax of 26% roundabout, and then the foundation will be able to claim a refund of approximately 10%. But you have to know that from a practical perspective, that unfortunately takes a lot of time because it's the federal tax office in Germany that is in charge, and they are unfortunately understaffed. And we actually wait more than 1.5 years for these refunds. So that's an unfortunate situation.
All right, so it's possible, but it has a bit of friction. So it's not fully optimized from a cost standpoint, but sometimes this doesn't matter to clients. Some clients actually want to consider irrespective of the cost, and they have a long-term view. For others, they may see, look, this just from a practical standpoint doesn't work for me. That's okay.
And also, Jan, let me just add, because I mean, it's important, I think, also for our listeners that, of course, there are structures to optimize such things. For example, working with partnership structures and so on and so forth. But I think for now, we stay with the general principles.
That's when people come to you. They'll be able to align that all these options for.
Exactly.
We know that in the UAE, there's no personal income tax. So how does this work from a German perspective regarding ongoing taxation, given that there is personal income tax in Germany?
Yeah, thank you. Let's have a look at the income tax on distributions first. Distributions from a tax opaque. Again, tax opaque, as Marcus said, all tax questions or tax answers apply to tax opaque foundations. So distributions from a tax opaque UAE foundation to a German tax resident are generally subject to German personal income tax with an applicable tax rate of round about 26%. So it's the flat tax rate that was Marcus talking about, 25% plus a solidarity surcharge. So we are around about 26.4%. Yep. So moreover, Germany has a very harsh dry income taxation as well, so-called attributional taxation. In Germany, Zurechnungsbesteuerung. Even if no actual distribution occurs, German tax law may still attribute the foundation's income to a German tax founder or beneficiary under the so-called attributional taxation. This means income at the tax German regardless of whether it was received or not. In some cases, the personal income tax rate is applicable. So income at the level of the foundation may be attributed to the taxpayer. That's a very harsh taxation.
Yeah, it's brutal.
And, you have to be aware of this if you relocate to Germany, right? Yep. And there's one more thing, or let's come back to the attributional taxation. Additionally, CFC rules may apply if the foundation is invested in low tax corporations. So CFC rules may apply in addition. For example, if the foundation is invested in a UAE corporation or a free zone corporation or in the mainland. So you have this two-layer taxation. First of all, the CFC rules would apply and the income of the corporation would be attributed to the foundation in the first step. And on the second step, the income of the foundation would be attributed to the taxpayer in Germany. So very harsh taxational system. However, there is an escape. So one more thing, very important to say. Note that recent case law has opened the savings clause from attributional taxation originally meant only for EU and EEA foundations, also for EU and EE entities in third countries. So this is supported by the European fundamental freedoms, here the free movement of capital, which applies globally. However, one of its requirements is the existence of full information exchange between Germany and the respective countries. So as Marcus...
Which you don't have now because we do not have the treaty, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's very unfortunate, and the escape rule will likely not apply. So this should be on the very first list on things to do between the ministries of finance, UAE and Germany, to get this enacted again.
So we need to do some serious lobbying. Very clear. Thank you. And what about the tax upon transfer or settlement of the assets to the foundation? I'm thinking here, especially if you think inheritance or gift tax. Is there any on German side?
Yes. Yes, yeah, that's a very important question because obviously if you plan with foundations, one of the first questions that come to your mind and that you have to plan for is how to actually transfer it into the foundation.
Yep.
So maybe to lay a little bit of the basement, the German transfer tax system. So we do have an inheritance and gift tax. It's one and the same tax, applies on all gifts and inheritances, and the tax rates range from 7 to 50%, 50. So that's a wide range. And it always kicks in if either the donor, decedent, or the recipient is a German tax resident, right? Citizenship is not relevant. So obviously, if, for example, you live in Germany, you think about a UAE foundation, that is absolutely relevant. The tax classes range from 1 to 3, whereas a foreign foundation, like a UAE foundation, is most likely always class 3. So that means the tax rate will reach 50% for transfers above 26 million, always added together within 10 years. So as you can see, this is an important planning issue to consider. There are ways to optimize the gift tax that you face. For example, you can sell assets into the foundations, right? For example, against a vendor loan or something like that. You can also use, you may be able to use German business reliefs, right? If you have a German corporation or a European corporation in place. So there are ways, but that's a little bit complex and has to be taken care of. And the other thing that I should mention is the exit tax that we also have in Germany. It applies to corporate shares with a shareholding of 1% or more, right? So it also applies not only if you relocate personally out of Germany, but also if Germany loses a taxation right for future capital gains in another way, for example, by a transfer to a non-German taxpayer, like a UAE foundation. So that's also an aspect that needs planning. It can be planned, for example, if you use certain, commercial partnerships to keep the taxation right in Germany and things like that. But it's just very important that you think about it. So these are the most important aspects when transferring into the foundation.
Into and out?
Yes. And then one time you want to get it out. And we talked about the ongoing taxation. Yes. Christian mentioned it of distributions. But there may, in certain cases, be also gift tax. And I think it's important to be aware of that just to be able to avoid this. So gift tax can apply if a beneficiary has an actual claim against the foundation. So you may not expect that because it's usually not a gift if you can claim something, but it's just a matter of German case law and statutory law that you have to be careful if it's not a discretionary distribution. So that's the first thing. The second thing is if you get a distribution in clear breach of the foundation statutes, that's also gift taxable. Should usually not happen, right? And the third thing is if you liquidate the foundation, that's also dangerous because liquidation proceeds may be taxable both with income tax and with gift tax. So that's obviously a little bit counterintuitive, but unfortunately it has not been clarified. And in fact, both taxes may apply in these cases.
So we talked ability to hold, taxation of various income in, out. The key part, and we have seen that when we did a similar exercise with France, that there are some quite demanding reporting obligation, because a lot of people say it's not possible. No, it's possible, but you need just to comply with reporting. So from a German standpoint, are there any reporting obligations when a UAE foundation has a connection to Germany?
Yes, there are, Jan. There's, for example, the German Transparency Register.
Yep.
It's a quite new register in Germany and very important for foundations. So if a UAE foundation has ties to Germany, such as German beneficiaries or German board members or owning Germany located property, it may be required to register in the German Transparency Register. So this would be the first key point to consider. And then there are obviously notification and tax filing obligations as well.
Yes.
So German residents involved in a UAE foundation and or the foundation itself may face reporting duties under German tax law, especially regarding gift tax and income tax. And most important, many of these obligations can also apply to the foundation itself and the individuals acting on its behalf. This is especially true for the transparency register and for notification of transfers to and from the foundation, potentially subject to gift tax. So be aware, if you are a board member of a UAE foundation, you may be required to file a notification.
Okay, very clear. So look, key takeaways here. My first one is that, and that's the good news, is that if I have a UA foundation, clearly 20 years ago, no one had a clue because it didn't exist. And now it's still perceived reasonably exotically, but the hope is, because we set up more foundation in the UAE than Liechtenstein every year, that it will be on the rise with more cross-border exchanges and hopefully a double tax treaty 2.0 soon. From your perspective, what key piece of advice would you give to someone, just a snap takeaway of someone that would want to use a UAE foundation with respect to a German connection?
Yeah, as I think it came out from these last 15, 20 minutes that we talked, the UAE foundations in Germany are not quite common yet, which I think is natural because they have not been around for a very long time.
Yep.
So they are exotic to a certain extent, that's clear. But however, given that UAE is generally on the rise economically and as a destination for many, we think that these structures will become more common in the following years. We do expect that there will be some case law, maybe some decisions by the tax authorities. So I think it's not at all something you have to avoid. The opposite is true. If you have connections to the UAE in one way or another, whether you have assets there or whether you want to even move there, then this can be a very good planning tool for you. And if taken care of properly, I think you can combine the advantages of both worlds. However, what is clear, I think, from what I said is we recommend to seek advice and if possible in the very beginning of your thoughts, right? Because everything, whether what you plan, what your asset structure is, everything has to be taken care of, and there are obviously no one-size-fits-all solutions. So, and that's also our approach at Pöllert. There are maybe other, law firms or tax advisors who have more like proper plans in their on their desk that are applied to every case. We're different. We look at every single case, and it's highly tailor-made. It's very bespoke what we plan. So I think it makes sense. Like the more complex structures get, and the more safe you want to be with regard to tax compliance, it absolutely makes sense to just talk to us, and we'll be happy to assist. And one thing that I should add in the very end, we really, really recommend all people who are involved in such structures with ties to Germany be compliant in Germany, because the capabilities of the tax authorities to get information get better and better. And German criminal tax law is extremely harsh. I think it's one of the harshest that I know. And we really want everyone to avoid this. So what you have to do is just be transparent with the facts.
Yeah. And luckily, I think clients today are very sophisticated. The UAE is attracting the right quality of clients, irrespective of the country of origin that they have. And because also of the sophistication of the country, the introduction of corporate tax, more reporting, people now are used to, hey, if it's cross-border, I'll seek advice in both countries. The other thing is, I think more countries are now used to both trust and foundation, and there's an ability to play with both either way to find the more optimal solution, provided you rely on slightly more sophisticated providers and advisors. And luckily, we had you on the phone today to talk about this. So, guys, that was super insightful. Thank you very much. Happy
Thank you very much,
winter in
Jan.
Berlin, and come see us soon in Dubai.
Thanks. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. See you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.